How come atheists can get insurance for acts of God? How do they do that? Where's the small print? Insurance companies will sell anything. They'll find a way. So what do they have?
They'll find a way.
Debate?
They probably are not allowed to discriminate, I'm going to guess, right? Even against atheists.
I don't have an answer for this one. I just saw it and I thought I'd throw it out there for us to ponder. So I need all the pondering help I can get on that one.
Okay.
But that's one. And the one that's a little more significant for today's show. If all the nations in the world, and how come, this is the how come question. How come if all the nations in the world are in debt, where did all the money go? Ponder that one. Where did all the money go? Now this my head is absolutely swimming with this, so we can have a little fun with it. And we'll come back to how this applies to a small business. Because that same concept, as you know, Adam, our clients ask that all the time. Like, hey, I'm making profits. I've been making profits for months and quarters here, but I don't have any money. Where did it all go?
Where did it all go, right? Yeah.
So, but my head is swimming from that question. Worldwide, I'm reading economists' statements, long narratives that using words and language that they can't even understand. We're looking at numbers like $158 trillion. I mean, it's absolutely crazy. So where did all that money go? That's a pretty simple question, isn't it? But it's got to come down. It's got to come down to our world, which is the small business world. A couple of things. Our clients ask that question about their own business. Where does all their money go when I'm making profits? It's not sitting in the bank account. And we'll talk about that in a couple of seconds.
The reason, let me interrupt you. The reason that
Sure.
question comes up is because it comes up usually around tax time, right? Because they're
That's the
filing,
most- that's
yeah,
the
they're
biggest
filing
time.
tax returns and they're showing a big tax bill. And they're often comparing that tax bill that they see with their bank account going, wait a minute, this says I have this much money. But something's going on over at the bank where it's not showing up.
That's right. You know, and another one, you know, we'll talk about this in a few seconds here, is a big complaint for almost every business owner and even big corporations. When surveys are taken by internal employees, they always say, and I'm going to say always, I'll put that number at 75, 85%. They always say communication is bad. Top management doesn't communicate. So how do you take something like this, where did all the money go, and make it a simple communication to your employees? How do you do that? You know, you as I was reading this and coming into it, the solutions for going, I'm going to bounce back and forth between small and world here. For world, the solutions to get out of all that trillions of dollars that, I don't even know how many zeros are on a trillion.
I think there's 12.
It's an
There's
easy,
millions and billions and trillions, right? Or do we have gajillions and quadrillions and, I don't know, make something else up with aliens on the back of it.
That's an easy number to comprehend, isn't it? Trillions. So the only way we're going to get out of that debt reduction, according to these economists, are higher taxes, sell more assets off, or restructure that growth, or restructure the debt. Meaning, you know, I'm owed X trillion, it's going to be now stretched out into 30 years, and I'll still be owed, but blah, blah, blah. You get all this put to sleep, rolling eyes kind of stuff. And
That's the number there, Jack. I think it's 12 zeros.
Yeah, okay. Adam just pointed out the 12 zeros. That's an easy number to comprehend.
Sure.
I think a lot of personal check registers.
I would say if they make that
that
deposit by accident into your bank account, you probably notice that, wouldn't you? Would that blow things up? You're going to the ATM machine, all of a sudden, hey, your current balance, and they probably wouldn't even fit on the receipt, right?
Couldn't you see everyone hovering around that one?
Right.
Okay, now who owns this debt? Owns, OWNS. Well, the government owes it to itself. So we got to figure that one out too. That's a discussion for another week, not a day. It also owes to people, to companies, and other countries. Okay, does anyone really know what the heck's going on with this stuff? I mean, really?
I think people might hear it. You know, you hear different voices out there talking about how different countries, you know, especially here in the U.S., we hear about China a lot, where China owns a bunch of our debt, right? So we owe them a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
So you hear bits and pieces of it, but I got to believe most folks probably have not even gone as far as you're going right now, Jack, in terms of trying to investigate this thing a little bit.
Well, I was trying to figure it out. You know, how do we basically get our hands around this? Can we? And it doesn't seem like we can and do. And that led further down the black hole to talk about what is money. Now, I'm not going to get into that one either. But we have some exciting shows coming up here that we're going to try to make those exciting. They're mundane, they're difficult to comprehend, but they involve us every day in our lives. So I'm going to bring it back now, get out of the world view, and come back to the small business world. So communication's a big deal, and our clients often ask us where the money goes. All right? Well, it goes into places that are used to run your business. And if you're a financial statement reader, which you should be, you're going to look at a balance sheet. And that balance sheet, if you know what that is, you definitely are going to get more meaningful knowledge out of this conversation. And if you don't, you should as a small business owner, because that kind of explains where your money goes. You either have cash from your profits, or it's sitting in accounts receivable or inventory or other kinds of things waiting to turn into cash. And when you're talking to people, I don't know how people who own businesses communicate to their employees.
Well, most of them don't. I think our experience has shown that most owners have never really had any teaching or experience with the financial part of stuff. If they have a decent accountant or CPA, that CPA may sit with them every quarter, every couple, every 6 months, and they may give them some reports, which again are not rocket science, but usually it's the CPA talking about it and explaining what's going on. But the idea of taking something, and most, one of the top fears that people have in the world, Jack, as you know, is getting in front of an audience to speak.
Yes.
And so if you add on top of that the stress of having a topic that you have to present is one that you aren't very comfortable with, forget about it. So I think most owners don't present numbers at all, and with the idea that I think they're afraid of getting in front of their employees, and also one of the employees is going to ask a question that they don't know how to do it, or it'll be misinterpreted. And one of the things we often will hear is people will look, and if all of a sudden your company is doing $1.5 million in sales, $1.5 million, not trillion, million. Okay.
Much, we can relate to that.
And the employees often think, well, gee, you're making all kinds of great money. Or if they talk about maybe gross margin, the gross margin or gross profit on that's going to be $900,000. In their mind, they're almost thinking all that money's going in your pocket as the owner. Well, the owner's making too much money.
That's right. That's
so they
exactly
figure, I'm not even talk about it
even though he
Don't
probably
tell them
is.
anything.
Even though he probably is, that's exactly what they think.
Right.
And they'll think even worse about it if there isn't an attempt to truly communicate how that stuff works.
Right. Explain to them, to your point, explain to them where all the money goes.
Yeah, how easy is that? On the world stage, it's almost impossible. On your business, it should be possible, but then it gets complicated. Then we talk